You have 2 minutes left to finish the task. Please focus on the form of the passive. As we mentioned earlier, it's formed by adding the object, then the verb to be, and then the past participle of the main verb. I'm sure you can do well if you concentrated on the task and on the structure of the passive form. You have about 1 minute left. Please don't hesitate to ask any questions in the live chat, and my colleagues will be able to contact you and answer your questions and inquiries. Okay, let's check your answers. The first one is coffee is drunk all day. Sometimes coffee is enjoyed right before bedtime too. Coffee beans are taken from the trees. The beans are dried in the sun and roasted. The beans are cooled rapidly before being ground. The beans are mixed with water. The frozen mixture is ground once again before it's packed. It is sold to store everywhere. I hope you have done really well on this task. Now let's move on to the next task. First, we're going to talk about how to write a describing a process paragraph. A process paragraph explains how something is done. It is a description of how something works. It explains the steps you need to follow in order to complete a task or an activity. We will have to learn two important things in order to be able to write a describing a process paragraph. The first thing we need for writing and describing a process paragraph is connectors. Examples of connectors are first, second, third, next, then, after, after that, and finally. Uh, we use finally to conclude the final steps in the describing a process paragraph, whereas we use first to start the describing a process paragraph. The second most important thing is for writing and describing a process paragraph is the passive form. Passive form examples of that are was made, were sold, was taken, is brought, are written. Of course, we will have to focus on using the past form in the present tense. Usually we would say the coffee beans are ground. We use the verb to be is for singular and are for plural, as we mentioned earlier. And the steps for writing a process paragraph would be the first paragraph. We will talk about the first and initial steps. Then in the second paragraph, we will mention the details of the secondary steps. And finally, we will include the last paragraph with the final steps. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. You're gonna read the text again and write the connectors. You have 10 minutes or 7 minutes. I'll give you 7 minutes to do this task. I'm sure you can do a really good job if you concentrated well, pay attention to the what you learned from this lesson and applied your previous knowledge to finish this task. The trick to find the connectors is to find the passive form and then go back to the beginning of the sentence where the passive form is found. You have about 2 minutes left to finish this task. Okay, you have about 1 minute and a half to finish this task, and then we will check the answers and move on to the next slide. If you are already done, I want you to start focusing on the steps that are used to make coffee. Okay, time is almost up. Finish up, and I hope that you will be finishing this task successfully. Okay, now let's check the answers. The first one is first, in the paragraph in this sentence. First, the coffee beans are taken. Second one is then, after, and then finally. Okay. You are going to have to read this again, to read the text again, and write the steps of the process. Focus on the passive form as we mentioned earlier, and you're going to have 5 minutes to finish this task as well. You have about 3 minutes to finish this task. You have about 2 minutes. If you have already finished, start thinking about writing your own describing a process paragraph. For example, you can try to think about the steps to making tea, or the steps to making a birthday cake, or your favorite dish, or a traditional dish in Bahrain like mechbous. Okay, you have about 1 minute left to finish this task, and I'm sure you will be able to do a really great job, because I trust that you are really good students and diligent students. Okay, get ready to check your answers, and don't be afraid of making mistakes, because this is how you learn. Making mistakes is the first step learning. Okay, let's check the answers now. The first step dried in the sun and roasted. 3. The beans are cooled and ground. 4. The beans are mixed with water, storing and freezing. 5. The frozen mixture is ground and packed in bags or jars. 6. The jars and bags are sold to stores. Okay, you are going to, uh, you'll be given 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Write a describing a process paragraph in your notebook. Choose one of the following topics. The first topic is how to build a model. By that we mean what are the steps necessary to build a model of an airplane, for example, or a motorbike, or a miniature of a vehicle. 2. How to make your favorite dish. For example, if you like machbous, if you like saluna or pasta or whatever your favorite dish is, try to mention and give instruction on how to make this dish. 3. How to review a book or a movie if you want. For example, you can start with skim reading the book and then adding the details. I'll leave it to your imagination and your creativity. Please don't forget to use the passive form and connectors because those are the two most important aspects and things in writing and describing a process paragraph. Before starting with the steps, you can also mention or give an introduction about the product or the product you are going to talk about. For example, when we were talking about the steps that we use to make coffee, we mentioned that the coffee is really popular and people drink it in the morning with the breakfast and sometimes before bedtime. So yes, start with about three to four lines of introduction about your product. So yeah, we're going to start with introduction, and then this next paragraph would be about the initial steps, and the third or last paragraph we will be talking about the final steps of making this product, and we will of course we will conclude it with the distribution of the product. Is it going to be sold in stores? Is it going to be sold in coffee shops? Is it going to be delivered to factories? You have about 14 or 13 more minutes to finish your paragraph. Don't reminder again, don't forget to use the passive form in the present tense and use the connectors as well. And remember that is, we use is for the singular nouns and are for plural nouns. If you are having problems with the introduction, you can always state or mention the type of consumers of this product. For example, if you're talking about a dessert, you will be saying that children enjoy this dish very much because it's sweet and children like sweet things. Or for example, if we're talking about traditional dishes, we can say that people usually enjoy this dish in Ramadan and religious celebrations. You can write the paragraph in the comments and in the live chat, or you can also write it in your notebook and then take a picture and upload it in the comment section. Uh, my colleagues will be able to follow up with your writings and paragraphs and give you feedbacks on your work. Ten minutes are left for you to finish your paragraph. But if you don't have time, you can always do it in your own time and then upload it in the comments and in Microsoft Team. And we will be able to follow up and give you advice and feedback on how to improve writing. If you're having problem with finding the past participle of the main verbs, you can always go online or in your dictionary and try to find the irregular verbs and how to convert them to the past participle. Um, Examples of irregular verbs is the verb hit. It's hit, hit, hit. So it doesn't change. There are more than one verb that has that don't really follow the rules of the past tense and past participle. So please pay attention to these verbs and try to learn them uh, on your own, or you can ask in the comments, and my colleagues will be able to help you. Okay, you have 2 minutes to finish the task. If you couldn't finish it, you can always upload it on Microsoft Teams and we will be able to help you as I mentioned earlier. And as I mentioned earlier, using the passive form will help you make this paragraph way easier and more proper and accurate, especially if you use the passive form in present tense, meaning that the verb to be would be is and are. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, I'll show you an example of a process paragraph. This is an example of a process paragraph. We already took it in the previous slide. See, we started with an introduction here. Coffee is very famous and delicious drink that people love all around the world. Coffee is drunk all day. In here we are talking about the audience who is using the product, who is consuming this product, and when they are consuming this product, we are saying this with breakfast in the morning or with a piece of dessert in the afternoon. And then we finished the paragraph with sometimes coffee is enjoyed with a passive form right before bedtime too. And the second paragraph, we started with the initial and first steps of making the coffee. Of course, we use the connectors to make coffee. First, the coffee beans are taken from the trees in the forest, and then we added the other connector. Then we can also say secondly, we can use different connectors, but we can't use finally or first for anything other than the last the last step. So we use then the beans are dried in the sun and roasted. Then we used after the beans are roasted, are cooled. See, we used the passive form in here, and we use the are because beans, the word beans is plural for being ground. The beans then get mixed with water. We can also say the beans then are mixed with water for storing and freezing. Of course, in the final step, we use the connector finally. So we say, finally, the frozen mixture is ground once again before it's packed into bags or jars and sold to store. And here we are talking about the distribution of the product, where it is sold, where it is distributed. It is sold to stores everywhere for you to buy, enjoy at home or at coffee shops. So the most important things are the passive form and the proper use of connectors. The first connector would always be first, and for the final steps, we are gonna say finally. Then we are going to talk about where it's distributed to, where it is sold to, where it is sold to, where it's distributed to, where can we enjoy it. So we can see enjoy it at home or at a coffee shop or sometimes maybe at office. Okay, you can share your writing on Microsoft Teams. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to give you feedback, point out if you have any mistakes, and tell you how to improve your writing. Okay. Thank you very much, dear students, for your perseverance and hard work. We are going to give you the link for a Microsoft form to fill out and try to answer and check your answer and see how much you've gotten in that text in that test. You can see the link for the Microsoft form in the live chat section of English 202, Chapter 9. Please take your time and finish this Microsoft form test. It consists of 5 questions. All of these questions relate to the lesson, relates to the passive form, the steps of writing a process. Those are the most important things of writing describing a process paragraph. And this is an example of the process, writing a process paragraph. Again, please pay attention to using the proper connectors and using the correct tense of passive form. We said earlier it's in the present tense, meaning that you are going to use is or are, and then you use the main verb in past participle. And please try to look at the irregular verbs and their past participle. We have 2 minutes left for the lesson. Uh, Please, I encourage you to do the Microsoft form test. It's going to refresh your memory of this lesson because you're going to apply what you just learned. It's a really good exercise to refresh your memory and motivate you to learn the lesson to its fullest.